Love them homegrown tomatoes for homegrown salsa, all kinds of good stuff. Welcome back, Cindy Dole here, Home Wizards, where we love talking about your garden, the inside, the outside of the spaces you call home, just to make life a little better, heck, a lot better. So thanks for joining the ride as we continue our journey here this Saturday. Keep the number handy, 888-539-2980. And if you're thinking about starting an edible garden or just being more successful with the one that you have, you're going to want to talk with this guy who really has a lot of great solutions for you. 888-KFWB-980. You know, landscaping, by the way, is the number one project right now that we're taking on. In fact, nearly 30% of us, or 50 million of us in this country, will do something in the next several months to make the outdoor spaces look great. And that's more than painting right now, more than wallpapering, more than carpeting and flooring. Why? Well, because we want to enjoy that outdoor, and we know that it's a good kind of a sensation. And for millions of us, the choice is to include an edible garden. But how do you do it? Or if you already started, how do you keep the bugs away? And how do you just get more of the good stuff working for you? Well, here to help us with all that is Lance Walheim, who's written over 30 gardening books. He's contributed editing to the Sunset Western Garden book, The Bible. In fact, he's working on the new edition, and he's just a great friend we love to have here. So, Lance Walheim, great to have you.
Hey, Cindy, how you doing?
Good. So first, before we get to the edible garden, tell everybody about what you're doing with the new Sunset Western Garden book. I think this is interesting.
Well, you know, there's so many new plants, and it's constantly an evolution of what goes on in gardening. And so for the last 4 or 5 years, I've been the senior editor of the Sunset Western Garden book, and we constantly work on it, but we're kind of reaching a fever pitch right now, trying to get out a new edition for next spring. So I'm going through various sections of the encyclopedia and seeing which kind of plants are new, what needs to be added, what needs to be dropped. So I think people will be excited when they see the next edition.
I mean, every year when you're working on a book like this, is it typical, there's like 100 new plants, or what's the average of the new varieties that are now all of a sudden part of the encyclopedia?
Well, it's hundreds. I mean,
hundreds.
It's really difficult to keep up with what, it's a constant thing. You've got to add new plants. You've got to take stuff out that, maybe is not as common as it used to be. You've got to talk to all experts in nurseries around the West, from Southern California to the Pacific Northwest, so we're covering 24 different climates, actually more than that when you include Alaska and Hawaii. So, and there's nurseries in every area carrying different plants, so you really got to be on top of it. But I'll tell you, the World Wide Web has made it a lot easier. When I first started doing this, I had to have all the catalogs and everything on top of my desk.
Oh, no.
Now, I can just go back and forth from the various catalogs and see what's going on.
You can Google it.
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah. And this will be out sometime next year.
Right.
The new one. Wow. That you really are a walking encyclopedia then, aren't you?
Well, it's a lot of fun to work on the book, but you always learn something. I mean, You always learn something. You become, you always see some plants that you want to try, and so it's fun.
Are there a couple of new ones that are catching your eye already? You're so immersed in it.
Well, there is so many. A lot of the succulents have gotten so popular. There's so many new yuccas that are coming out. There's a new one. Let's see, the variety name skips my name, but there's ones with these beautiful blue foliage. There's one with variegated foliage. The sedums, the echeverias, all the succulents have just never been more popular. And, of course, all the new varieties of vegetables that we've been talking about.
Yeah.
Also,
they're exotic, aren't they?
Yeah, it really is. And there's just wonderful stuff when you start seeing all the new heirloom varieties that are coming out. And, it's fun.
And the thing about growing edibles is it's almost like you're getting so many benefits. Not only are you getting food, relatively cheap, if not almost for free, it's you're getting really beautiful and exotic looking plants that have this foliage that look like it's from some other planet. And then when you're pairing them with other perennials, it just is this,
yeah, the ornamental
stunning.
Edible garden, and you're exactly right. And, there's so many good reasons to grow your own vegetable. You can save money. It looks great. It's a great thing to do with kids. But not only that, but you're getting such good tasting produce. What is better than a, homegrown tomato?
Homegrown tomato.
Yeah, you just can't get it anywhere else except right out of your backyard. Maybe a farmer's market, I guess. But even when you grow it yourself, it's always going to taste better.
It is. So is it too late to try to plant a tomato right now?
Oh, absolutely not. It's only the first part of June, and with the long growing season we have here in California, you still got time. You can go out and get transplants and get those in the ground. A lot of the quick crops like the beans or the zucchinis, you can start from beans, but start from seeds. But if you're going to go with some of the things that take a little longer, like the tomatoes, the peppers, the eggplants, you're probably better off going with transplants.
Mm-hmm. And I think that for the beginning gardener that, we get kind of impatient. I think that as you get more sophisticated as a gardener, then maybe you can just go with seed. But I think that for those of us starting out, there's more of an instant reward, an instant satisfaction to see something developing now.
Right. Well, a lot of the vegetables are actually easier to grow from seed. Things like beans, like corn, they're such big seeds. They germinate so quickly. And you're really taking something from, the very beginnings of life, from a seed all the way to a harvest. I mean, and that's a special thing to do when you're gardening. But it's like you say, I mean, vegetable gardening is a little bit more difficult, a little less forgiving than, just growing roses or some of the other landscape plants. You've got to be on top of things. You've got to, do your homework, understand that you've got to plant in the right spot.
Mm-hmm.
You can't let plants dry out. You let your cucumbers die out once, and you're going to have bitter cucumbers. So it's a little less forgiving. So you want to make sure you get off to a good start.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of seeds, I was told that Mother's Day is the time to always remember to start putting in pumpkin seeds, to have pumpkins in time for Halloween. We've kind of missed that, but can we still plant pumpkin seeds?
You definitely can. There's still time to do. Pumpkins are, you want to get them, you don't want to get them in too early so the ground is cold or that the fruit, all the pumpkins are ready way too far before Halloween. But yeah, you can still do it, and now's a good time to do it. And maybe you want to even try one of those giant pumpkins.
Oh, I know. And the thing is, be careful what you wish for, because I know a lot of my friends who are planting and growing pumpkins, I mean, they just take over the yard. They're huge.
Yeah, they are. They're very big vines. You've got to have some room. And, you've got to keep them well watered. You've got to fertilize them. And if you're going for one of those big ones, you've got to direct that energy into, maybe just a couple pumpkins. But, there's so many great even varieties of pumpkin out there. I mean, you can get a white one if you want. There's so many great things you can grow that really makes Halloween special.
Oh, they are. I like the kind of blue-black ones. I mean, they're all different kinds. Well, anyway, don't go away, Lance, because we want to talk more about some of the how-tos, the amount of sunlight and keeping bugs away and how much water, and then how frequently are you supposed to, pluck some of those tomatoes and fruits from your edibles so that you aren't, letting the plant die, basically. You're listening to Home Wizard. Cindy Dole here. We're talking with Lance Walheim. Maybe you have an edible question. Call on in. Don't be afraid. 888-KFWB980, 888-539-2980. When to pick, how much to water, all that in edible gardening next here on KFWB News Talk 980.
Oh God, how I missed you. Oh Pod, how you tease. Nothing to get hung about. Strawberry fields forever.
So are you growing something this summer, huh? Cindy Dole here, Home Wizards, and got a nice email from some of you who said, thanks to listening to the show, I'm now doing things I never did, like growing edibles. So yay. And it's people like Lance Walheim who kind of gives us more of the know-how to make us smart. Lance is an all-around great gardening guy. He's written over 30 gardening books and quite the expert. And now he's been working on the Sunset Western Garden Book Encyclopedia. So he knows all about the new plants that are coming out and tweaking all that. Lance, thanks for hanging out with us this Saturday.
My pleasure, Cindy.
So you've been so busy, I'm guessing that your edible garden is not as active as it could be.
Well, I'm a little bit late. We've been having such a strange spring up here. I mean, we're expecting rain in the Central Valley tomorrow, and we've had sprinkles all day, so I am a little bit behind. But I garden in raised beds, so I've got real good lightweight soil. So I'll get all my stuff in this weekend, and I'll be good to go in a couple weeks.
All right, so give us some pointers. Let's say that we're just starting from scratch, and it's a nice enough weekend here in Southern California. Here it is June, so what should we first be thinking about just to kind of get our edibles started?
Well, you want to pick a site with full sun. Most vegetables need full sun. That's really important, and good soil, of course. You're going to want to amend the soil as best you can. If you can get it tested, that's another great idea, especially if you plan to garden there for a long time. Plan how you're going to irrigate. I mean, that's key in our dry summer areas. Think carefully about a drip irrigation system. That's a great way to go, maybe with a timer. So if you go away for some period this summer, you'll be able to still water the plants.
Mm-hmm.
But, consider the soil, work in the organic matter, get it nice and loose. If you live in an area that has really bad soil, you can consider going in raised beds. That's a great way to go. Then you can build the perfect soil in the raised beds, or you can even garden in containers. There's a lot of compact varieties of vegetables that are ideally suited for pots, things like the patio tomato. And then, as the plants go in, you're going to have to watch them very carefully about the watering them, especially since we're starting a little late. We can get some hot weather all of a sudden. You've got to keep your eyes on those. Once the plants are established, the good rules of watering still apply. You want to water deeply, wet the rooting area completely, and then allow it to partially dry out. You do not want vegetables to dry out or ever get to the wilting point, or you're going to have problems. You want to fertilize them pretty regularly when they're young. Back off on a lot of them when they get a little older, like tomatoes, because you don't want to get a lot of foliage at the expense of fruit. And then, once you start getting into production, you want to make sure you pick regularly.
Yeah.
Because it's very important. A lot of plants, if you just leave the cucumbers or the beans or whatever out there on the plant will stop producing. And as those vegetables get bigger, they'll be less delicious, is the way you want to put it.
Right. And isn't it true that basically if you aren't picking, then it's producing some kind of a chemical that inhibits the further blossoming?
Well, what happens is, basically the plant is putting its energy into producing the seed that are in those vegetables, because that's the struggle for survival that all living things do. So it's putting its energy into producing those seeds and maturing those seeds. Well, you don't want big seeds in your cucumbers or your squash or whatever, so it stops blooming. So as long as you keep picking them, it'll keep blooming.
Mm-hmm. Now, you mentioned full sun, and that's for mainly the types of edibles that bear fruit, basically, right?
Well,
lettuce.
Almost all vegetables
yeah?
are best in full sun. Some can take a little bit of shade.
Like lettuce?
Like lettuce and things, yeah. But basically, you want as much sun as you can get. And then, you do have to watch out if you live in a really hot climate, and depending how you're pruning your tomatoes, a little bit of late afternoon shade just to keep the sun off those exposed tomatoes is often a good idea. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, you got to watch out for the insect pests. You've got to be a good observer out there looking at your plants frequently, and to take action if you see anything that's happening, like aphids or different types of worms or caterpillars. And of course, Bayer Advance can help you with that with the Natria line, which is bio-natural, non-synthetic products that include options for organic gardeners. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that people worry about when you have an edible that, how do you keep the bugs and pests away and then not end up getting chemicals on the food that you're going to eat?
Well, I think that's the reason why a lot of people grow their own vegetables. They want to know exactly where it came from. So, and people are, of course, concerned about that with their food. So Bayer Advance provides us with some good options.
Mm-hmm. Now, we can't forget herbs, because herbs are always great. And
what are your tomatoes going to be without basil?
Yeah.
You got to have some herbs in the ground. And the nice thing about the herbs is, you're talking about mixing flowers with the vegetables, which I always love to do, some marigolds, zinnias, cosmos, things that are going to bring in beneficial insects. But a lot of the herbs are gorgeous, too. You can put some of the creeping thymes in, or some of the variegated salvias, the sages. So you have all the different herbs that you'll want, or some purple basil. There's so many options.
Yes. And you mentioned beneficial bugs. We just had our ladybug treatment the other day where we put the ladybugs on the roses, to let them eat some of the aphids. That's always kind of fun to do. And we hear about we want honeybees to visit. So how do we keep the bad bugs and pests away from edibles, but yet get the honeybees to come, to help with the pollination?
Well, the key thing is like I said, using some of these, like the Bayer Advance Natria line. You want to use things that are not going to hurt the beneficials. You want to use them according to the label instructions, which is key, because even some organic products can harm bees if they're used at the wrong time. But you can use some of these products to knock the pests down, late in the evening when the bees have settled down and gone back to the hives. But be very careful when bees are active on your plant, what you use on them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Some of the things that we should think about, you said that fertilizer is important. Is there a certain kind of fertilizer that you like for edibles?
Well, yeah, with most vegetables, nitrogen is the key element.
Yeah.
It's nitrogen that is leached through the soil when we water. And, I mentioned earlier on why, it's a good idea to have a soil test. We're finding in a lot of western soils that we have excess amounts of P and K, so a lot of times a complete fertilizer with all three of the major nutrients is not needed. So That's one reason why you want to get a good soil test. But in most cases, it's nitrogen. So you have a lot of different options. You can use things like organic fertilizers like fish emulsion, and there's certainly a lot of other options too. But it's nitrogen that you're most going to want to have, especially if you're gardening in raised beds with light soil or a container where you have to water more frequently. Frequent applications of nitrogen would be very important, especially early on.
Now, in terms of getting a soil test, I mean, I guess we can get one of those kits, or we just take a baggie of our soil to our local nursery or cooperative.
Well, the best thing to do, a nurseryman would be able to tell you where you can get a soil test, or you can go online and search soil tests for your on the web, and you'll be able to find some places. You have to go to a private lab in most cases. Those test kits, those can work pretty well too, but they're not going to give you as accurate a picture of what nutrients that you have or don't have in the soil, and won't probably give you a recommendation as to what to apply to correct some problems that might be there or might not be there.
Okay. I was thinking maybe the cooperative extension.
The cooperative extension is a great place also. They'll be able to give you names and locations of soil labs in your areas.
Yeah, because we have that in L.A. County. That's a great resource. All right. Well, some of the others. I know you're a huge citrus guy. We can't, we can't forget the fruit. What would you suggest that we be thinking about in terms of bringing citrus or some other, melons and things like that to our garden?
Well, there's so many ornamental edibles in the fruit family. I mean, citrus is obviously one of them. And it's a great time to plant citrus, as long as you keep it watered through the summer. Great ornamental plants. And, blueberries, the southern high bush blueberries are becoming so popular. Those are very ornamental plants. You not only get the colorful fruit and foliage, but you get the fall color, white flowers in spring. Strawberries are another one that you can tuck in almost anywhere if you want to. And then, of course, if you've got a lot of room, there's a whole bunch of options with some of the low-chill apples, the peaches, the plums. So, the ornamental edible garden is really become incredibly popular.
Totally, for the front yard even.
Yeah, and for all the right reasons.
Yes.
You get the food, you get the beauty.
You're sustainable. Yeah. Have you ever tried the pineapple guava?
I've got a pineapple guava in my backyard.
So describe it, because I haven't tried this, but it sounds so striking because I guess there's red and white edible flower petals, and then the fruit.
Right.
Yeah.
Pineapple guava is Feijoa, which is we call it its botanical name, and it has beautiful red and white flowers, which are edible. They have a real nice sweetness to them, and then they produce a really kind of unusual fruit, which is greenish and kind of oblong. And it has a real unusual flavor, almost like, I want to say Tutti Frutti or Beeman's gum. It's a very herby, minty kind of flavor to the fruit. It's very delicious and a very ornamental plant. Nice gray-green foliage.
I'm going to have to get that. And we can try that now?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Put that in the ground now.
I'm going to get that.
When you're ever planting late, the ideal time to plant anything around here is fall, but also spring is a good time. The later you go into the season, the more you have to pay attention to proper watering once you've got it in the ground. That's the key thing. So
before we let you go, we have to talk about this garden makeover contest that you guys have going on, and explain what it is, and can we try out for this? Yeah, it's the Bear Advanced Ultimate Yard Makeover, and you go to the Bear Advanced Facebook page, and you can enter there, and we'll have it. The contest runs until the end of June, and then in middle July we'll select a winner, and they'll get a $10,000 makeover of their yard. I will come down and help them decide what they want to do, and we'll also have a local landscape designer involved. So if you're looking to get your yard redone, this is a great way to do it. Okay, I'm gonna put my picture up there, not of me, in the garden. Yeah, please do. We need some help. We need Lance. And so the Rose Parade's not too far away, but we don't know anything yet about the float, right? Because we always look forward. No, we don't yet. We're still working on that, well, we're about 6 months away. But I know you were interested, but I'm getting ready also to go to Florida for my brother's launch on the space shuttle. Yes. Yeah, he's going up on the last space shuttle. It's scheduled to go July 8th, which just turns out to be my birthday, so we're all excited about that. Oh, I'm so sad that it's going to be the last shuttle. Yeah, I know. But what an honor for your brother to be up there. Wow. Yeah. And he's going to take a rose with him? Pardon me? Is he taking a rose with him? Or not this time. No? We did that the last time, of course, so that was fun. Oh, okay. Well, Lance, so great to have you, Lance Walheim, and we look forward to seeing the new Western Garden book by Sunset, and we'll talk to you again soon. Hey, thanks, Cindy. All right. Well, still ahead, I got some more project ideas for you, both the inside and outside. And wait till you hear about this light you can have for your outdoor living. It looks like Halley's Comet, but can you afford it? I don't know. Home wizard Cindy Dole. We're back right after this.
No matter black, white, or beige, should I